Yep.
Welcome to the Struggle Bubble. I'm Chad Cutting.
I'm Craig Sergi.
On today's show, a special guest that I've been looking forward to having on for a bit since we started following him and Healthy Sports Parents on Instagram, Jonathan Carone. Jonathan, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
This is absolutely fantastic, and I think coming at a great time. So before we get too deep, and I'm relatively confident our listeners have heard of you, but if they haven't, maybe just a brief introduction on who you are and what you've been up to.
Yeah, I'm Jonathan. I started the Healthy Sports Parents platform about 18 months ago after seeing a dad on the sideline of a 9-year-old soccer game who was yelling at his daughter to the point that daughter started crying. She leaned into mom and dad kept yelling. And what I tell people, I can get into this more later if we want, but what I tell people is in that moment, I had sympathy for the daughter, but I had empathy for the dad because I know he didn't wake up that morning saying, Chad, Craig, you know what sounds great today? I want to make this kid who I love more than anything cry on the sideline of this sport she loves. That sounds like a grand old time. But something happened during that game that triggered some emotions in him, and he did something that he wouldn't do in any other aspect of his life. And I guarantee you, he didn't feel great about that. So I started a platform to help people like that and just help people who have kids going through sports understand why they're feeling what they're feeling and use sports to raise great humans. Because most of these kids aren't going to be playing anything too super serious, but they're all going to grow up and be adults. So how can we keep our relationship with our kids strong and help them grow into the best adult they possibly can?
Absolutely.
Do you
incredible
think,
mission.
Jonathan, that the wife made him walk home?
No, I think she let him ride home with it. I'm pretty sure they went home together that day.
As you've seen these episodes happen, and for all of us who've been coaches, we're actively parents, there is no playbook for us. We're trying to figure it out. We always make a little bit of the joke of, well, we had 80s parents growing up. We had different conversations on the car ride back home. It was just a different way to raise kids, and we're all doing as best as we can. What have you seen that you think is different, let's just say post-COVID, let's go post-2020, and how parents are helping their kids understand why they're involved in sports and then how they're applying their knowledge of how they were parented into their parenting?
I think the first place we have to start is just acknowledging that we have different information that our parents didn't have. So our parents, if we're being generous and optimistic, our parents did the best they could with the information they had at the time they were parenting us. Was some of it not the best? Yeah. Is some of the stuff we're doing right now, are we going to find out in 15, 20 years that, hey, this actually wasn't a good idea? Probably. Will our kids have versions of these podcasts having to kind of deconstruct some of the stuff they learned from us? Absolutely. So it's like each generation learns from the generation before them if we are open-minded enough to study, hey, did this good intention have a good result? And so what we're learning right now is that, the basics of it, we have more data than we used to. We know that most kids aren't going to play in college, or even few are going to play professionally. So if that's the case, then what are these sports actually for? We have the data that says sports have gone up 40%, 46% in calls since 2019. And that number is based off of 2024 prices. So it's even more here in 2026. We know that. So is spending all of this money for the chances of getting a college scholarship that are so low, is that worth it? Like, all of this data informs how we approach this. We now have years and years of research on parenting methods and what works well and what doesn't. And like we can now study the adults and how the parenting methods, like how they impacted adulthood. And so we know that like that old school authoritarian caused some issues. And yeah, there may have been some grit there, but there was also some insecurities. There was adults seeking love in all these places that they didn't, because they didn't get it from their parents. But then we've got the research that also shows us that permissive parenting and just go do you and like nothing matters and your feelings are all that matter. We know that's not healthy either. So if we don't want to go post-COVID, we understand that there have to be rules in place, that kids need to experience consequences, but they also need to know that mom and dad love them no matter what, that mom and dad's love is not based on their performance. So how do we combine those things into a comprehensive parenting journey while also recognizing that is so freaking hard? Like, it'd be so much easier to not be aware of any of this stuff, to not
Do
care.
you think, Jonathan, that the club environment, so I'm not putting any specific sport in there, is a dominating factor in how the parents act as well? Because I've seen it twofold. Again, kind of c'est la vie kind of way of running a club, right? So dad rocks up, mum rocks up, parent rock, whoever, and no curriculum, no anything, just a field and a ball, right? And we're kind of doing this, that it's going to work out. Then you have the other side of it that is, hey, we have a top level program that we have 55 kids a season going to the pros, college, whatever. Chad and I talk about this a lot about the structure in the country of a multiple sports. And if that isn't built correctly from the top down, we see a very big pool of struggle on both sides of that coin.
Yeah, I mean, we are the product of our environment a lot of times, and we choose the environment that we agree with more often than not. At the same time, what I think we have to acknowledge is that in way too many places, some of these club owners and coaches have a little too much power. And by that, to not get into it too deep, when the club director is also the high school coach and they have a bias towards people who play with their club, it shouldn't happen. I understand how it happens. Even if I was to give every benefit of the doubt and say, well, that club coach just knows some of those kids who were in their program longer, so they trust them more. They're not purposely trying to be biased. It's just a natural human thing. Even at that point, it trickles down to, well, we got to get our kid in this club as soon as possible if we want to get them in any type of travel situation. So I think there's a lot playing into it. I personally, and this is a little bit of a soapbox for me, I think so much of it comes back to the fact that teenagers have so few places to play sports. Unless you can make a JV varsity team and have the time commitment to give up your entire week, there aren't really recreational places to play for teenagers in a lot of places. And even where they are, we've got this culture in America that says, if you're not going to be the best, why even play? And that culture really only exists for teenagers, because once you get to college, kids start playing intramural sports again. And once you get into your 20s, the beer leagues start existing, the rec leagues start existing. People start running 5Ks just to challenge themselves. But for kids 13 to 18, we tell them, you have to try to be the best at this or there's no place to play.
Yeah,
I believe if we had strong rec leagues or in my opinion, intramural sports in high schools, I think that takes so much of the pressure off of parents and families, because there is a place to play if they're not good enough for the middle school team. Because I mean, think about it. Middle school sports in a lot of places really start 7th grade. Some places 6th grade, but 7th grade for a lot of them. Let's say you have a middle school of 1,000 kids, 500 boys. Let's say 300 of them are in 7th and 8th grade, 350 are in 7th and 8th grade. You have to be the top 10 of those 300 to make the team in a given sport other than like football. So the pressure there is insane. Like, God forbid your kid hit puberty a little later, or maybe they weren't interested in the sport. I have a 9-year-old upstairs right now who he played 1 year t-ball when he was 4, hated it. He has played soccer ever since. That's been his main sport. But I'm the PA announcer for the local high school baseball team. So this entire spring, he's asking to come to baseball games to hang out with some of his friends. And he's right there behind the scorer's booth watching the game. And as the season goes on, he's asking more and more questions. And he's been watching Banana Ball on YouTube. And this 9-year-old is now starting to want to learn how to play baseball. We're going to a baseball camp next week at the high school. He's never played before. Doesn't really have a huge interest in playing the actual game on a team right now. But the sad reality is, if he doesn't play on a team in the next year or two, even recreationally, by the time he gets to middle school, there's no chance to grow into the sport, to discover the sport for the first time.
Well, and
So,
that's where you go to the beer league, right? When he's an
Right.
adult, then maybe he goes and plays softball because he enjoys the sport.
Right. But it's like, because our culture is set up so competitively starting at 13 years old, he doesn't want to play baseball in the fall because he doesn't want to miss soccer. which I totally understand. Soccer is his love, but he wants to learn how to throw and catch and hit a ball. And I think he'd enjoy baseball, but because we're set up in these soccer's fall and spring and he doesn't want to miss out, like, I'm not putting any pressure on him to do that. He loves the sport, but because the two sports overlap, like, are we going to get a chance to actually play on a baseball team? I don't know.
It's
Is
tough,
it the
man.
year
It's
round?
really tough.
Is the year round? We have the specialization that happens super early. We have the travel ball, the soccer, competitive soccer, where the kids are being conditioned and maybe not being exposed to the other sports. There's another variable where the field availability isn't there. I mean, we're in a bit of a bubble and like finite space out in the Bay Area here where there is no green grass to go play on unless you're paying the city or the school district, a bit of an arm and a leg. You have the insurance. Like, we've made it so difficult just to get kids in the program. And then there's a coaching aspect of, we don't have the volunteers that are willing to give up that time for not the best teams. They want to go down a competitive track either financially or because it's easier to coach. They're not willing to take the challenge of, let's be there for the community and just let's just get out there. Let's learn. Are you seeing any structural differences across the country as you have these conversations?
So I'll use an anecdote and then I'll go into the structure a little bit. A friend of mine who played Division II baseball, he is an assistant coach at the high school. His son went competitive travel baseball in like third or fourth grade. And we were talking about it one day. He's like, we never wanted to leave Little League, but I'm at Little League every year teaching the same kids how to throw and catch a ball every single year. And it just got so frustrating because they're not doing anything outside of practice. They're not playing catch at home with mom and dad. And half the kids don't even want to be there, but mom and dad are signing them up. And so we're not actually able to teach the game of baseball to the kids who want to play baseball because we've got these other kids that we're having to teach all this stuff. So there is a little bit of a parenting issue there of not understanding the sport and what goes into it. That, like, basketball, soccer, those are some sports that you can just roll out. And if you're not good, there's no safety issue. Baseball, softball, hockey, lacrosse, like, when there's a ball or a puck traveling at you at high speeds, you have to be able to defend yourself and know how to catch the ball. You don't have to be like, okay, sure, you can't hit, no big deal. But you got to be able to catch a ball in order to safely play the game. So that's what they were dealing with. And while I love local little leagues or Cal Ripken leagues or whatever the local version of rec league is, I totally understand why someone might want to leave and go to a more structured place. But with that, when that happens, I'll use that same guy as an example. 3 dads decided to start a travel team. That was 3 of the 6 coaches of the local rec league. Those 3 dads were coaching 36 kids in the rec league. Now they're coaching 12 kids in a travel team. So not only are there fewer kids playing in the rec league, but that rec league experience just got 3 times worse because the dads who knew the game the best and could teach it in the best way, they bailed. Rightfully, there's no judgment. Right, like, I understand why they bailed out to go start this team, and so the product became even worse. And so what we have seen is, over the last 20 years, every 3 or 4 years, the next level leaves the rec league and the rec league gets even worse. And there's this tension in the fact that if all the 3rd and 4th tier kids came back to rec league and brought their parents with them, we could have a 90s rec league experience again. But they're all
I think,
playing 3rd and 4th level travel sports
yeah,
to do
yeah,
it
we talk
together.
about this all the
So
time.
the rec league is coached by Jim, the accountant, who's never played, but wants these kids to have a great experience. And God bless him. I love Jim, the accountant. I'm so thankful for him. But he's never taken a coaching course. He's never played the game. He's learning drills on YouTube and trying the best he can, but it's just not a skill set he has yet. And so
Yeah,
all the
yeah,
coach equipping in the world that we give him, he could only do so much because it's not his background.
yeah, yeah. We talk about this all the time, where the teams, 1 to 5, for example, team 5 and 4 are rec. they're just playing in a competitive league. And again, I've got really no opinion on either side of that. If you want to go and play against the town over, and that's classed as comp, but the level is what it is, okay, you want to go and do that,
I think Rec
that's your
Plus is the
call.
future,
Yeah,
especially 10
that's where
years
we
and older.
get
Like
to.
that Recreation Plus option. So the example I give, my daughter plays in a soccer club, the large town below us. We're in a rural area and we only have the numbers to do co-ed soccer, and she wanted to play just girls. So I happened to go to church with the CEO of that club. So I emailed him. I was like, hey, can we start a team that practices up here but plays in your rec league? So we've gotten to be a part of that league for 3 years. Because that league is a larger club, it's this big city, and some other small towns around. What they have been able to do, and this gets into we can talk private equity later, we can talk large clubs as well, but a benefit is starting at 11 years old, they have what they call advanced rec league. So in this club, your rec league soccer practice is one night a week and one game on a Saturday. For advanced rec league, it's all the kids who want an extra step but don't want to go travel. They add a practice on Friday night and 3 Sunday doubleheaders. So you get about 8 to 10 extra practices and 6 extra games. And it's all within the 30-minute span that this club covers. And so it's only $130 extra per season. You wear the same uniforms you would wear in the rec league, but it gives those kids who want an extra step of competition an option to do that while still playing in that 12-week window so that you can play multiple sports and not having to invest thousands into more. And it's volunteer coach. So it's one step above rec league for those who want more.
For the example, Jonathan, of you had the three travel ball dads go and get out of Little League. When does the thought process start creeping in that it is necessary to leave Little League and go? Because
Dude,
this
we're
season,
seeing that at 6 years old, 7 years old.
This season's been crazy for me, where we have kids that are missing practices for their Little League or Little League playoffs or games because there's a travel ball tournament. I've never seen it, and as long as I was Little League president for 5 years, it seems to be getting worse, despite all the conversations we're having about being, playing with the community and being part of that season versus travel.
And this gets into the idea that we don't have an overarching governing body in youth sports. We have some sport specific ones like US hockey, US volleyball, but baseball, softball, there's no one overarching governing body that says, hey, we're not going to start travel ball tournaments until mid-June. We're going to let March, April, and May be the Little League recreation community leagues. And then we'll do our travel tournaments in June, July, August. There's no one saying that because there's so much money to be made in these tournaments in March, April, May. So you have, I get messages all the time from people. They're like, the debate of should travel kids be able to play rec league? I know in youth soccer, most areas have it in place that if you're playing on a competitive level, you cannot play recreation. Little league, oftentimes it's by league. And so some teams or some leagues have said that if you're playing a travel team, you're not allowed to play Little League. Some have said you're allowed to do both. Some even allow full travel teams to play together in Little League, and they go through and murder the rec teams, which I'm totally against that.
That's against Little League bylaws.
I love the ideas of the competitive kids coming in and playing an 8-week schedule with the more recreation kids to help them learn. But what that requires is the parents not looking down on those kids who aren't as competitive, saying, oh, they suck. This kid, like my kid's so much better. My kid's just so competitive. They can't stand being like, why don't we teach our competitive kids to be good teammates and leaders and show those younger kids or those more inexperienced kids how to play? Because what we know developmentally is that when you learn to coach a sport, you become a better player in that sport because you start seeing it differently. I interviewed Jen Greeny, who is the head volleyball coach at West Virginia University, Division I program. She makes her girls, her Division I volleyball players, coach rec league so that they can learn what it's like to be on the other side, so they can learn how to teach the game. And so why can't we teach our competitive kids how to help their their teammates or their classmates, instead of looking down on them as not being as good as them. It's the culture that we set as adults
Yeah.
that defines so much of this experience
Well,
for everyone.
that point about the parent side of it is so major, and especially here in Northern California, or I don't know too much about SoCal soccer, but NorCal soccer, dude, is so toxic. My kid's on team one, my kid's on team two, this kid sucks, why is this kid even hit, blah blah
Can I
blah.
get into that real
And
quick?
yeah.
Okay, so shameless self-plug. This is module 1 of the Healthy Sports Parents course that releases in July. So I'll give you a preview of it. It's also the first chapter of my book that I'm working on. The reason it's so toxic comes down to 2 very human emotions that we all have inside of us, but most of us don't realize are going on. One's called self-love, one's called self-glory. This goes back to the cavemen, so there's no judgment here. This is a part of being a human. We are hardwired to want others to like us, whether we say we don't care what other people think or not. We want others to like us, and we want others to think we are good at what we're doing. And again, take it back to the cavemen. When the cavemen from the other valley came across the mountain into our valley, we wanted others to like us and think we were worth protecting so that other caveman group couldn't kill us. It's a survival mechanism. It's how the human race has continued going on for millions of years. What happens, though, is we start finding our self-love and self-glory in our kid's performance. Our kid plays well, and we think other parents will like us more because our kid's playing well. Or we think other parents will think we're doing a better job as a parent because our kid is performing well on the field. And the way I know this happens, how many times have you seen someone on a field or a court, whatever it is, their kid plays well, and other adults are going up and saying, Chad, great game today. They're congratulating
100%.
you for what your kid did.
100%.
So now that starts feeling really good inside of us. The next time our kid doesn't play well, they don't say those good feeling things to me. And so now I feel like I'm not as good of a parent. And we don't even realize it's going on half the time. Most people aren't saying like, yeah, I'm getting my identity and my self-worth and self-glory and all this stuff from my kid's performance. But when you look at their actions, no, that's self-love and self-glory driving the ship. That's why it's so important for my kid to be on that team. That's why I only post on Facebook when my kid wins the tournament, and I don't post when they play a crappy game. That's why X, Y, and Z. That's the underlying emotion in so much of this, that when you're aware of it, you can start saying, oh, am I
Well,
actually...
you go back to the structure of the club again, right? Like me as a coach and a director and those kind of things, I go to those parents, not in an aggressive manner, but like, can you play? Have you ever played? So how are you giving a comment something you've never attempted to do? But again, that's through 20 years of coaching, etc. It's not a brand new parent on the sidelines.
Yeah. And so we have this natural thought that people are going to look at us differently based on how our kids play a game. And insert dance here, insert cheerleading, insert academics. Like there's just that human piece of us that if we're not aware of it, sports have this way of shining a light on our deepest insecurities that we don't even know exist. It's like, why am I flipping out at a 7-year-old basketball game on a Saturday morning at the YMCA? Like, why am I feeling so tense about this? And we can justify it a lot of different ways, but when we really dig deep down, it's that self-love and self-glory coming out, or past experiences that we're reliving. One example I'll give you. A friend of mine, I've known him since elementary school. He texted me a couple weeks ago that he yelled at a 13-year-old boy on the other team in a soccer game that his son was playing against. And I was like, okay, tell me more. And so what happened was, it was a corner kick. This kid was running directly at his son in a way that you could tell the kid was running at the player, not the ball. So my friend yelled out, play the ball, not the player. Nothing harmful, but still, he knew he shouldn't be yelling at a 13-year-old boy. My first response was, Will, Do you remember when we were 13 and we were playing all-star basketball and that kid threw you into the wall and broke my wrists? Yeah, I remember that. I was like, yeah, Will. So your body and your brain remembers that too. And so when you saw that kid running at your kid, your son, who's the same age you were when that guy threw you into the brick wall in the gym and broke both your wrists, your body had a reaction to that. So not only were you wanting to protect your son in that moment, 13-year-old Will was also inside you reliving that experience. So was that any fault of anyone that he was reliving that, other than that kid that we played basketball against? No, but it was a natural human experience that he didn't realize was happening in the moment. So it led him to doing something that he otherwise wouldn't do. And he knows is wrong. And he regretted after the second it happened. That's not to say we won't ever get these things wrong. But when we can at least be aware of what's going on inside of us, we understand like, oh, okay, this is what happened. So we can, number one, try to do better next time. But number two, we can also go to our kid and say, hey man, I apologize for that. Like I shouldn't have yelled like that at you on the sideline. I apologize.
It flips the other way as well. Like if you've played at a certain level, you're asking your kid, I get into a lot of these conversations, why didn't you do that? Why can't you do this? And I'm like, yeah, okay, easy. Like number one, you have an adult brain. So your last process of doing something was as a elite athlete. You can't process back down to when you were 8, 9, and 10 and you were struggling to get to that level. And maybe you weren't super struggling. Maybe you were still the best player. So you accelerated, but you can't comprehend the difference between my adult brain of when I finished playing to when I was 8, 9, 10 years old and I was still developing the game.
Well, and also
that one
you're
drives
from the
me bonkers.
sideline. You have a totally different perspective than the tunnel vision on the field. Like you didn't have anyone running around you. You didn't have anyone running at you. Like even when I jump in and play soccer with my U12 rec team, like I can't see the field when I have the ball at my feet the same way I can see the field when I'm coaching. And so like, if I can't do that as a 39-year-old adult, I don't have very high level playing experience, but I've been around the game for a while. Like if I can't do that, why am I expecting these 11-year-olds to be able to do that who are still learning the game? And like, they're still learning how to run and control their body as they're starting to hit puberty. And I got a girl on my team who's a giraffe. Her legs have just grown so much over the last year and she's just running around trying to control her body. And it's like, of course she missed that ball. Like she can't control her leg. Like,
yeah, I talk about it all the time when people ask me advice on, my 7 and 8-year-old. I'm like, well, for a start, can they tie their own shoelaces yet? Let's get back down to the basics, right? Then we can progress from there. People forget. They get so excited.
Are they wanting to get out? Like, I give the example of my son. He's like 9-year-old, just finished 3rd grade. Again, we are co-ed recreation rural soccer. So the level of play is not very high. He played up in U12 this season. He's big. He's the biggest kid in his class. We moved him up to U10 a season early for that same reason. He was just bigger. And so with the age groups getting changed in U.S. soccer, he technically has a whole nother year of U12 or U10 soccer before he's supposed to move to U12. But he was the slowest kid on the team this year. Still scored some goals, still had a pretty good season for being so much younger than everyone else. But towards the end of the season, he started asking about getting faster. He started saying, hey, what can I do to do this? What can I? And so it wasn't us saying, like me and my wife noticed it, but we knew going into the season, this was a challenge year. I say there's years where you want to gain confidence and there are years where you want to be challenged. And this was a challenge year for him. We knew it was going to be hard, but it wasn't us pushing driving the car of, oh man, he's got to get faster. He's got it. It was no, for his age at the competition level he's playing at, kid's doing great. I'm so proud of him. And he came to us saying, because my wife is a runner, Mommy, can you help me get faster? Cool. That's what we want. We want a kid who asks to get better. We don't want it to be driven by us doing it. We went to TST on Friday night, the soccer tournament, the 7v7 adult tournament, which is,
the old celebrity one, right?
Yeah. If you're a soccer fan or if you just love sports, it's incredible. It's adults playing on a 10-year-old size field. Like it's insane. But we're sitting there watching the game, and my daughter, whose season ended about a month ago, she goes, "Man, I wish we were still playing soccer. That's what we want. Like, we don't want them playing so much that they can't wait for the season to end." She's watching this, and she never watches soccer with me. And then we came home, and yesterday we're watching, like, she's finding the game on TV for us, watching the game totally invested. And so, like, it's got to be their timeline. We can't force it. And we got to realize that some kids are going to develop athletically and mentally and socially right away. Some kids are going to be a little bit longer. I interviewed Dr. Joey Case on my podcast, and we're working on a bonus episode to come out in July or June, but he specializes in ADHD kids. So he's a sports performance doctor with the Florida Marlins, or the Miami Marlins organization right now, but his focus is on ADHD. It's what he did like in his school. He told me that kids with ADHD are normally about 20% behind neurotypical kids. And that 20% can be in different areas. It can be socially, it can be academically. Every kid is different. But usually a kid with ADHD has at least one or two places where they are 20% behind. So I am highly undiagnosed ADHD. If you go back and listen to that episode I did with him, we pretty much diagnosed me that day. Like I was pretty sure, but after the conversation with him, pretty sure. But we think my son has ADHD as well. And so he's super smart. He is a pretty decent athlete, does really well. But there are times emotionally and socially where it's like, oh, there's the 20%. Now that we know that exists, it's like, okay, he's 9.5.
I think a lot of
places that are still 7 or 8 that will catch up, but every kid's on their own timeline.
Yeah, I love that they've got that in the pro sports now, like the performance psychological session they've had for years, right? At the highest level. I think, just referring to soccer again, like the coaching qualifications we go through to coach at certain ECNL, etc. levels. I think there's more aspects needed around that. As much as the physical side and what you should be coaching, there's so much more psychological structure needed.
Because if you don't understand the psychological piece of it, you don't understand why we need to coach this way.
Correct. Yep. Yeah.
But once you understand the psychology behind it, it's like you hear people, I'll use, we'll go hot button issue right now, running as punishment.
Dude, don't even get me started.
Going back to the conversation we had at the beginning of this, our parents didn't know any better. So we're going to make you run as punishment. Well, what we have learned in the 30 years since we were kids is that a lot of our generation grew up thinking that running and exercise was a form of punishment, that you only did certain things as punishment. So I don't make kids run as punishment. I don't enjoy doing, like, some people do push-ups or burpees. Like, especially at young ages, I don't do that, but I can do that because I understand the psychology behind it. I understand that when you equate an action with a negative emotion, that wires something in our brain that those two things, that thing is now negative. And I don't want kids to have to unpack that when they're 22 years old. And so because I understand the psychology, it's not soft to not make kids run as punishment. It's actually intelligent. But I might have a different opinion if I didn't understand the developental psychology.
100%. Yeah, 100%. I always talk when I walk up to a field and I see that and I'm like, oh, we at a track meet. Like, what are we doing? Like, this shouldn't be punishment, number one. There's so many negatives around it. Again, you're with that as a punishment, air quotations, you're still enforcing that the best athlete is the best athlete, right? They're going to win the race, full stop. So you're also building out a terrible team environment right now. They may have been the one that didn't do anything wrong or whatever, but everyone's punished as a team. Mm-hmm. Now we're accelerating the athlete again.
They're not mature enough to understand why they're getting punishment when they didn't do anything wrong.
Nah, they're just running because they're told by an adult that you've got to go run. They're respectful kids and they're doing what the coach says, right? And there's so many negatives in that. It drives me through the wall because there's so many other things.
There are so many other ways to get conditioning in too. Like,
conditioning, they're 10, 11, 12 years old. I tell people this all the time. They don't even have a lung capacity yet. What are you conditioning for? But like they run until they can't run anymore. They're like dogs. They run, they get tired, they stop. It's done.
I make my kids run in practice so much and they never realize they're running. Like
It's
our
part of the
warm up
game.
a lot of time is I will stand at the midfield line. All right, dribble to me and back.
Yeah,
Use this part
exactly.
of your foot.
Yep.
And I'm like, hey, it needs to be at least a jog. Doesn't have to be a sprint. It needs to be at least a jog. But I tell them, like, if you work hard in my drills, I'm never going to make you run. And then, like, I actually had kids one practice this season asking me to do a running drill because I saw something on TikTok that I thought would be funny, and I did it. Where, for those of you who coach, I'm just throwing this is a free thing for you. Put the kids on a line and tell them to yell as loud as they can while running as fast as they can and see how far they can get. You do one, they do it and they stop where they end. Like where they had to take the breath, that's where they stop. So the kids are competing, trying to see. So they're asking to do 3 and 4 extra sprints. Sure, we'll do 3 and 4 extra sprints, and we're laughing and they're running. And why would I ever do running as punishment when I can get them
exactly.
to do? We did a game this year where I set up 2 pop-up goals on opposite ends of the field, and they were not in front of each other. One was on this side, one was on like caddy corner pretty much. And we played 5v5 or 6v6, depending on how many kids were there, and we used 2 balls at the same time. Those kids ran their butts off nonstop for 15 minutes, and they're having to communicate. They're having, like, I'm not a great technical coach, but my kids got better doing that. They loved the game. And so I ended up having 5 of my 7 boys on my team try out for the competitive level. Now, 3 of them aren't going to make it probably, but they loved the game so much that they wanted to challenge themselves.
All you're there, people forget that's all we're there to do. We're there to help the kids. We're not there for us. It doesn't matter what my, cabinet looks like with my medals and my awards and all that crap. We're there to make the kids love the game so they keep progressing in the game. And you've got to be aware as a coach that when my time is up with this kid because they are progressing, I applaud them and move them on to where I feel is a good environment for them, not try and hold them back and keep them part of my team to make me successful and my group successful. No, that's not, you shouldn't be coaching. Your job is to get them better and progress.
We had a game after one of our games this year, we all got ice cream. I do it every year. Like the whole team went out and got ice cream after a game, and we're in the restaurant eating, and I'm sitting next to some of the boys, and they were like, we always seem to get our goals at the end of the game. Like we always end up coming back. I was like, it's almost like I do that on purpose. They're like, what? You can't determine when we score. I was like, no, but I can determine who plays where and when. They're like, what do you mean? I was like, do you notice that the same 4 of you play offense the last 10 minutes of every game? Well, yeah. I was like, yeah, imagine if I did that the entire game. We could probably score a lot more. I was like, yeah. I was like, but would that make you guys better soccer players? Probably not. I was like, so what do I do instead? You make us play different positions? Right. If I cared about winning games, I'd put those four boys on offense the entire game, say, screw everyone else. You guys can go play defense, and we go score a bunch of goals.
You're preaching.
I don't care about winning games in U12 recreation soccer. What I care about is that kid is well-rounded enough so that when they go and try out for the middle school team in 6th or 7th grade, and the coach says, what position do you play? They can say, wherever you need me. Because maybe there's an 8th grader playing offense, but they've got some experience playing defense for me, so they can jump in and play defense instead of sitting the bench. And anytime a kid complains about playing, I was like, well, I had a girl on one of the teams I coached this past year. She's like, I don't like playing offense. I was like, all right, you're trying out for middle school next year, right? I said, yeah. I was like, well, what if Coach Jennifer tells you there's not room on defense, but we do have a spot at right forward? Would you rather sit the bench for the entire year, or would you rather get some playing time at forward? Well, the second one, obviously. I was like, yeah. So let's go learn how to play offense right here when it doesn't really matter. She's like, oh, okay. But kids don't understand that. Like, no kid is thinking long-term. It's up to us as the adult in the room to look at this as a long-term process of, we don't know what these kids are going to grow into. Like, we don't know. Like, I personally think my son, if he keeps playing soccer, will develop into a center back. Just the way he's built, the way he sees the field. Like, but he might continue. He loves playing center forward right now. He might end up on a team where a coach wants to have a holding forward that kind of clogs up space and gets the ball to other people. You know what he's really good at? clogging up space and getting the ball to the faster kids on the outside. So I don't know what he's going to grow into. I don't know the coach he's going to grow into. So I have to play him at both positions, even though he only likes playing, or he prefers to play up front. But that would be a disservice to him as a athlete and as a kid, because putting him in the back is challenging him in a different way than what comes naturally to him. So it's just a matter of if we can see these kids as human beings first, that we're just using sports to develop them as humans, then everything else starts to fall into place a little bit. But again, that gets back to us understanding our insecurities and what's driving that, and understanding a little bit of, like, you don't have to have a degree in this. I don't have a degree in psychology, but I understand a little bit or enough about developmental psychology to understand what kids need at different ages.
As you're building out these toolkits, and one of the biggest problems, we do Positive Coaching Alliance out here. One of the biggest problems is the parents that need to hear the Positive Coaching Alliance or need to hear about the Healthy Sports Parents are not the ones that are engaging.
I just had a publisher. My literary agent is pitching my book to publishers right now, and the comment back literally was, I'm afraid the parents who need this most won't be the ones who buy it.
So how do we continue to be consistent and get everybody engaged? Because it does come down to that, where there's the commentary of, oh, that's psychobabble. Oh, that's being soft on the kids. We need to coach in this way. Or sometimes there's some of us that engage with this positive coaching, but in the moment are unable or go back to bad habits. So I'm curious on how you see this as it's practically applied, how you're getting parents to engage and really have a groundswell of expectation that this is how coaching and parenting should be when it comes to sports.
I think the first thing there is to acknowledge and empathize with the fact that we're all going to blow it. So just because you messed up or your competitiveness came out doesn't mean you're a bad parent. It just means that in that moment you lost control of your emotions, and let's try to do better next time. Just like we would tell a kid, like, I think that's the first place we have to start. At the same time, though, I think most parents want to do better. They just haven't been taught how. I think the amount of the quote unquote toxic parents are actually probably pretty low. I would say no more than 25. I was talking to the COO of Pioneer Sports. They're the ones who own Surf Soccer and Rush Soccer. So they have 100,000 kids in their program nationwide. He told me, he goes, I think 10% of the parents are just not involved at all. They're completely absent-minded. 10% of the parents are bad. 10% are just okay. 60% are probably fairly all right. And 10 to 20 are really good. And those numbers can shift a little bit depending on the sport, depending on the area. I think if we just took 10% of the bad or okay and moved them into the pretty all right, and moved 10 to 20% of the pretty all right into good, we would have a massive culture shift.
Yeah,
because
I'd agree.
Once the crazies start looking around and realize they don't have the influence they think they do, because a bully only has influence if you allow the bully to have influence. Once someone steps up to the bully and tells them they're wrong, usually they either cower down or they leave. And so if we create this culture where, no, that's not right, and we're okay saying it, that requires relationships, that requires us to see others as humans, that requires us to, even me saying the crazies felt a little too far for, if I want to be honest and pull people in.
I just extremists.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
But it requires all of us working together to create a culture shift, and then like having the information to be able to speak up when the time comes. An example I'll give you, my soccer club switched this year from giving trophies at the end of the season to giving soccer balls to every kid.
Perfect.
We decided that we want, if our mission is for the kids to fall in love with the game of soccer and to continue playing the soccer, then giving them a ball allows them to play in the off season, and it helps parents, because the ball we got for $8 per kid is going to cost a parent $15 to $20 at the store. So we're taking away a cost. That was our motivation. I was talking to a grandpa yesterday, whose son plays like little kickers or U6 soccer, something like super young. And he said there were a lot of parents on that sideline who were upset that didn't get a trophy. Like, that was my idea, actually. He thought I was going to agree with him. He goes, well, and then I explained to him, I was like, exactly like I just said. He didn't necessarily agree with me, but he quickly changed the conversation because he realized I had thought through it and I had a reason. And so we've had parents complain about it, but the kids I gave a soccer ball to after our last game on Saturday, they were fighting over the balls and they were the exact same soccer ball. Like, they loved the fact that they got a soccer ball.
Yeah.
So it's the adults that are the ones complaining, that are the ones that are upset. Those kids are going to get so much more use out of a soccer ball than a trophy that would go sit on the mantle or something like that. So because I had a relationship with this grandpa and I was educated enough to tell him the why, I may not have convinced him, but he realized that he wasn't the majority and that not everyone thought like him. So maybe he stops a little bit before he says something and runs off at the mouth the next time, because someone who he knows and respects has pushed back on him before.
So parents behaving badly is one of the elements here. So I think what you're saying on the common language, where we do have a scaffold, they can use the materials that you're producing with Healthy Sports Parents, engage with the book, understand the concepts, but then living them and having the confidence to live them in real life. Let's just talk money in sports a little bit here, because that comes down to those incentives and those expectations and the trophy hunting that is going on. So the Let Kids Play Act is introduced. I was Senator Booker, Representative DeLuzio, that comes through and says, hey, there's a problem. We've identified it. And I think based on some of the reactions that I've seen across, there's some skepticism on whether the federal government should be involved in this. I would love to get your thoughts. I mean, government aside, one, having the conversation is important. We should go in and engage with a problem or potential problem that we're seeing. And two, you had talked a little bit on the last couple of posts and podcasts on, let's not drive money out of sports. There is good money to be had to engage more kids, but kind of talk about the nuance as you see it with money in the sports.
Yeah, if you want to know more about that, I did interview Congressman DeLuzio and Senator Booker on the Healthy Sports Parents podcast. So it's 2 episodes ago. If you want to hear the conversation about that, have at it. I thought it was really fun. Wasn't super political. It was kind of informational about what the bill is, why federal government's thinking about this, all that. So I won't get into that side of it too much here. But there is a difference between private equity and venture capital, in my opinion. And what I don't like about the Let Kids Play Act is that they automatically lump all investment into what they call the vulture capitalists, the vulture people who are trying to take advantage of families. And they make good companies prove that they are good, as opposed to saying, which I think the more American way is, that we're going to assume you're good, but once you're proven to be bad, that's when you're labeled this and have to do all these things. So that's one of my issues there. I do think a worker deserves their wages. It's a core belief I have. If you are providing a service, you deserve to be compensated for it. Now, the question becomes, are you providing a service to make someone's life better, or are you preying on someone's fears and insecurities for profit? That, like I mentioned my course earlier, I am struggling with that so bad because I have a core value that I don't want to charge parents for content, because I don't feel I can ethically be the guy saying, hey, all these clubs are preying on your fears and insecurities for money, and then come out with this course that says, hey, here's how to deal with your fears and insecurities, but you got to pay me for it. So I'm working through that personally. Like, my primary way I'm selling the course is through leagues and clubs, because I can sell it for $1 or $2 per kid. Whereas if I sell it directly to a family, it's got to be much more than that. But again, I think if someone's struggling with that, they're probably doing this for the right reason. If they're just seeing parents as a revenue source, they're probably not. I hosted a panel at the Buying Sandlot conference, which is a huge youth sports business conference. And the panel was on what we called professional recreation. It was I9 Sports. It was a few others. But one of the guys I asked this question to the panelists. I was like, how do we balance franchisees or business owners needing to make money with the fact that sports should be affordable and accessible? And one of the guys, I wish I could remember his name, but I can't. He said, it all comes down to what your intentions are. If you're trying to provide a service and you're getting paid for it, most people can understand that. If you're trying to get paid by providing something, that's where you start getting into an issue. And I hope your listeners are smart enough to hear that distinction, because I mean, this platform is Healthy Sports Parents. I'll pull the veil back completely here. Healthy Sports Parents is a side hustle for me. I own a marketing agency that does websites and logos as my primary business. That business is down 40% this year in revenue. Meanwhile, what Healthy Sports Parents has grown into is about a 20 to 30 week side hustle that at this point this year, this is the most I've ever made on the platform. I am bringing in $2,000 to $3,000 per month. No, not even that much. But you get the point. It's not making a ton of money. I think we're recording this on June 1st. I think I've made like $16,000 this year on that. I don't know what the hourly wage works out for that, whatever. But it's taking much more time than it is bringing in money.
Mm-hmm.
And so my wife and I have had the conversation, like if I can't figure out how to monetize this year, I'm going to have to scale it back. So I'm going at this in a way of like, I want to continue helping people. How can I do that in a way that brings in revenue so that I can continue doing it? And I'm working on speaking engagements. I'm working on brand deals. I'm working on podcast sponsorships. And then I have this course that I'm working on. So I'm trying to do it in these ways. I'd like to think people who are listening to this hear that and say like, no, like that's someone worth paying, because I'm not out here saying, well, if I get X amount of people that do this, I can bring in, I don't have a revenue goal. I'm not basing it off of, I'm saying, okay, I think this product or service is worth this amount of money. Can I get away charging less? Let's see if I can do that. But let me charge what I need to and hope that enough people want it at that price that that it can be sustainable.
Yeah. And coming from an authentic place is what people respond to. And I think that trust and security and that voice people can identify with. And it's different than the wash, rinse, repeat that we see in some leagues or influencer marketing, where it's just, hey, here's a hook, let's get you in, and then move on to the next. What you've been able to do with the Healthy Sports Parents and the engagement you're getting is you're seeing it firsthand, you're living it, and you want to provide a better service so that we all elevate our game as parents, as athletes, as coaches. And I think people will be able to see that authenticity. We struggle with the same thing, right? Craig and I have this passion for talking about youth sports, talking about the struggles that we're all going through, normalizing it and giving ourselves some common tools, or at least some peace that other people are going through what we're going through. Unfortunately, in the society that we're in, that pays less than venture capital or other, software endeavors that you can go down.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone should be able to get paid for the services they offer. But I think even in my business, like I could make so much more money in my business, but I have talked myself out of projects before because I didn't think the person on the other side of the call should spend that much money. I didn't think it was a great investment from their part. I could have taken it and my life would have been better for it. But if I value other humans the way I say I value other humans, I have to look out for others as much as I look out for myself. And that's not as profitable, but I think it's more ethical. I think our society would be better off if we all approached it that way. I believe there's enough out there for everyone if we all take care of each other. But it's going to be slower. It's going to take more time. It's just figuring out how to do it in a way that makes sense is harder. And it's easier to prey on fears that your kid's not going to make it. Your kid's going to fall behind, all these things. It's easier to sell flash than it is to say like, hey, let's calm down. Here are the basics. If you can just do the basics right, you'll be okay. Like I have some friends who own a gym. It's an expensive gym. It's sports performance, but their social media is nothing like some of these ones that I see other like who are doing all the crazy, like they're squatting, they're hinging, they're bench press, like they're
Fundamentals.
doing the basics
Yeah.
in the best way possible, making sure kids stay healthy, making sure kids aren't overloaded, challenging kids, but that doesn't make for a sexy social media post.
Well, I hope people engage. We just started a nonprofit over the past couple of months, just dedicated
Nice.
to that non-specialization, core speed, core strength, and that applies everywhere. That's, I mean, they're, as 40-year-olds, they're teaching us be more flexible, build that strength, because that will be an investment in the next 15, 20, 30 years of your life. Similarly on the kids side, and we can make it fun. It isn't going to make us millionaires, but I tell you what, the fulfillment that we get of seeing a kid have a light bulb go off and get stronger and get faster and love to work and love to grind is so much more worthwhile than the 15 years I've spent in technology building tools for others and for other businesses.
Like I love making websites. I love helping companies reach more people, make more money, whatever their mission is. But no, to hear the stories I get from parents, hey, I didn't know that I agreed with this, but I tried it anyways, and man, our relationship's so much better. I'm like, okay, that's worth it. And my sole goal on the financial side with this is to make enough money that I don't have to think about it, that I don't have to count my time, that I don't have to worry about, am I taking something away from my business in order to do this? Like if I can make enough money to, let's say I make up for that 40% that the marketing business. If I can get back to where I've been the past 5 or 6 years, and I'm not having to worry about where's the next thing coming from, or, I mean, some of the software you have to use in this world is expensive. And like, we're both using Riverside right now, that like those bills catch up, and like the platform I'm using for the course is expensive, but to do it right, it costs money. So like even that, whatever the $16,000-$17,000, I said, that's pure revenue. That's not profit. That is what I've brought in on top of the, like the plane ticket to go to the speaking engagement, the, like all those things that go into it. Like, I just want to get to a point where I can serve families without worrying about, am I taking money away from my family by doing this for free? And if a coach wants to help kids become the best they can be, and they need to get compensated for it so they can continue doing it, pay that coach.
Absolutely.
Like, that coach deserves to be paid. Hopefully it is a respectable rate and they're not taking advantage of you. But if they're highly skilled and highly trained, that's probably going to cost a little bit more than you think it should because of the amount of time it took to get into that. So it's like, there's no perfect rate for what makes sense in sports. Like the local club, like the club I'm on the board of in soccer, we charge $640 a year for classic soccer, plus your uniforms. But we don't have lights. Most of our coaches don't have advanced certifications. A lot of times they're just people who have been around the game and love it, and they go through an interview process to get hired, but their payment is like $1,500 a season. Plus their kid gets to play for free if their kid's on the team. Like it's not, whereas if you go to the club my daughter's a part of, where she plays rec soccer, it's $2,000 a year to play for that club. They have lighted fields. They have turf fields. They have paid coaches. They have administrative assistants who do the communication and the scheduling. So there's so much more you get for that $2,000. Sometimes our teams beat their teams.
Yeah.
But
money doesn't buy success.
What are you paying for? Like you might say that $2,000 is nothing for me. Congratulations to you for your success. Like if that makes sense, and you want to pay for the extra coaching, and you want to pay for the structure and the indoor facility and all that, like if you can, go for it. But just because you can doesn't mean the less expensive programs are worse. And on the flip side, just because something is charging more doesn't mean it's necessarily better either. Or that, this might step on some toes and I don't mean to. A lot of times people who can't pay the higher prices say that no one should charge the higher prices. I disagree with that too. Like, there should be a level of this for everyone. And where I have a problem is when we get to these systems where to have a chance to play, it costs $1 billion. Like, I don't love that. When high schools are having to charge to pay for it, to play on a publicly funded school team, I don't love that. When the club owner is the high school coach and they lock you in a system in order to have a chance to make the high school team, I don't love that. Like, that guy doesn't deserve his money. Like, to me, that's shady. So I hope your listeners can hear the nuance in there. And even if we disagree, we might disagree where the shade of gray actually is, but I would hope we can agree on the principle at hand.
Absolutely. And then again, go back to the motivations and, do a bit of your own research. If it doesn't feel good, your spidey senses are right as a parent, and you should look into that. You should ask. And there are resources out there that you can review how other organizations are being run. All the nonprofits or athletic organizations that are run as nonprofits, their finances are publicly disclosed. You should take a look at, what is that club director making? Are they making $500,000 and you're paying for uniforms and all the extras? Well, there's probably some questions you need to ask, but then really at all times go back to the fundamentals of, if you have FOMO because you wouldn't be a part of that organization and you're paying $3,000 a year and those teams are winning, but your kid is unhappy, dig in a little bit, because they might be just as happy with a rec program or a program down the street or another town over. It's not about winning tournaments and trophies. It's about
But also,
development.
are you thinking that others will think you're doing a better job because you're sacrificing to get them on that higher team? Is it a you thing? Or does your kid just want to play soccer? Do they just want to play baseball? Do they just want to, maybe they don't make the A tier team, but they would have been on the bench there. Maybe they're the starter and performing well on the B team. Sure. Are they having fun? Are they enjoying it? That, to me, that's, again, I mentioned earlier, there are times to be challenged. There's time to gain confidence. My son, in the mindset he is right now, he would hate to go to a competitive team and play 20 minutes of a 60-minute game. He'd much rather play on a rec team and play 45 minutes a game. He just wants to play. He doesn't care as much about the score. He's going to try to win. He wants to try to score a goal, but he wants to be on the field playing. He doesn't want to be sitting on the bench.
This hits close to my heart, and I know we're going to need to wrap up here in a second, but my daughter went through this, where she is, for the past year, has been on a very good competitive team. They're winning more than they're losing. They're winning tournaments, and she's playing 5 minutes in the second half. She comes to me, I'm putting in the work, Dad. I'm trying, I'm doing this. I love soccer, but this isn't fun anymore. And we had to do the evaluation and ultimately decided, with her guidance, that we're going to move to the next club. And this club might not win as many games, probably won't, than her former team, but she's going to be challenged a level up. She's going to be average, and she's going to excel. And this program is going to put her in those spots, because it is about the athlete, not about the trophy, not about, the program, as far as, that elite. And that's what we believe in. And we're going to keep checking in with her.
It goes back, like, I talk all the time about how winning is not what makes sports fun for kids. Your daughter's winning a lot and she's not having fun. Like, the studies show us, and I don't want to get too academic here, but the studies show us that what makes sports fun for kids are playing with friends, learning new skills, competing, and having parents and adults who support them in the process. Winning is fun most of the time, but winning in a culture where winning is pressurized isn't fun. Winning on a team where you're not getting much playing time isn't fun either. Well, losing's never fun. Well, actually, in an environment where kids are encouraged and where they're getting to play and compete, and they like their coach and they like their teammates, a loss can be very fun, even for competitive kids. It's going to sting a little bit right when it happens, but that kid's going to want to go to practice next week too, because they love who they're playing with and they love the fact that they're getting to play their game. So it's not all about winning. Don't come at me with the whole, like, well, losing all the time is not fun either. No one's talking about losing all the time here. But when we prioritize kids enjoying the game, being challenged, growing, getting to actually play, that's what keeps them in the sport so much longer than being on a team that wins all the time, but they don't get to play.
100%. So let's do this. As parents we're into all-star season for Little League. We're into club renewal for soccer. We're into summer camps. As parents are sitting in that struggle a little bit, what is your advice on how to maximize their fun and their connection with their kids as they head into the summer?
Focus on effort if they're still playing more than performance. Like effort is what matters most. If they're going into these camps better be fun. If you're paying this money for camp, like, yes, they're going to work hard, but like, is there a slip and slide day for baseball camp where they're going to go in and like have an hour of just sliding practice on a slip and slide? Is there like, what's the fun stuff that's going are they going to have water balloons on the soccer field? Like, this is the time of year that, yes, we're going to get better, but especially if we're not in like the ID camps for high school kids trying to go to college, if we're just in the get better camps, there should be some fun involved because the season is a grind. The training is a grind. At some point we got to have, like, we had our last rec game of the season this past weekend, and we're supposed to have a festival the weekend before, but it rained. And so the team I was coaching had half my kids and half the kids of another team. The team we were playing against were split up as well. Last couple minutes of the game, the referee goes, "Hey, we got 2 minutes left. Pull them all on the field." So we threw every kid out there on the field. Yeah. It was chaos and I don't know what the finals. I think we lost like 6-2. But those kids, at one point I yelled at the ref, "William, how much time I got left?" He goes, "Oh, we were done 4 minutes ago." But he stopped the clock because they were just playing. So at some point this summer, how can we make sure our kids having fun? At the same time, let's not overschedule our kids to have something going on all the time. They need to have time to sit on the couch, to lay around and watch some TV, to play in the backyard, to ride. Like, my son, he's 9 years old. He doesn't know how to ride a bike. Like, we just never did it. It never happened with all the other stuff going on. He's been asking about, told him when school and soccer got over. I'm like, so I think you said this is coming out on a Thursday. 2 days from now, guys, I'm buying my kid a bike. And this summer, we're going to try to learn how to ride a bike. Like, it's stuff like that. This is the time to emphasize that relationship. Let's build the foundation for our relationship with our kid so that when they go into the season in the fall, they are confident in our love and our support of them, and that it's not performance-based, that we love them no matter what, because they're our freaking kid.
Absolutely. Well, Jonathan, I truly appreciate you coming on. For everybody listening, if you're not following already, Jonathan's the creator of Healthy Sports Parents. Go give a follow on Instagram. Visit the website, healthysportsparents.com. Take a look at the approach and the programs that are going on. I think it'll help you establish that relationship with your kids, with every kid you're coaching, and just checking in with yourself. Jonathan, truly appreciate it. For everybody, we'll see you next week. Follow us on Instagram, The Struggle Bubble Pod. For Craig Sturgey, I'm Chad Cutting. We'll see you all next week.